Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Good, good. Because today we're going deep into a pretty dark place.
Oh.
The story of Jon Dunkle. The name might ring a bell. The Peninsula serial killer.
Ah, I see where we're going.
Yeah, pretty notorious case. We'll be using his Wikipedia page mainly, lots of info there. But we're not just going to recap the facts, are we?
No way.
This is about trying to understand, well, the why. What turns someone into that? What makes a serial killer?
Big questions. In this case, it really makes you think.
For sure. So Jon Dunkle, born 1960, seemingly normal life, at least at first. What's wild is, looking back, it wasn't like he just suddenly became a murderer.
Right. The Wikipedia page, it lists out all these crimes, but there's a progression to it. Almost like he was, working his way up.
Exactly. Like, before the murders even started, there were burglaries, assaults, even hit-and-runs.
Showing a disregard for the law, for sure, but also for human life, even then.
Oh, absolutely. There's this one incident, 1982. He hits a young man, Steve Murphy, with his car. Just leaves him in a ravine.
You can see the lack of empathy there. A chilling foreshadowing, really.
And that's what's so disturbing. Each crime gets more violent, more brazen, like he's testing the boundaries, getting bolder each time.
A desensitization, almost.
Mm-hmm.
You see this sometimes in these kinds of cases, sadly. It's a gradual buildup to the unthinkable.
Which brings us to, well, the murders. And it's important to note, each victim, each case is unique. Tragic, of course, but also unique. We'll start with John Davies.
15 years old, vanished from his home in Belmont back in '81. Just gone.
The family, though, they never gave up. Their search, their advocacy, it actually helped create the Violent Crimes Information Center.
A sliver of good coming from such a terrible event.
Right. It's heartbreaking but inspiring at the same time. But then you have Lance Turner, only 12 years old.
Stabbed repeatedly. 23 times. And what makes this case even more chilling is the phone call.
The phone call.
Yeah, to his grandmother. This unidentified man, later we know it was Dunkle, calls and, well, apologizes. Then asks, should I do it again?
Oh, God, that's just evil. Pure evil. What was he thinking? Was it a taunt, some sick game?
Hard to say. It speaks to a deeply disturbed mind. Someone capable of such violence, but also this strange attempt at connection, twisted as it is.
And then, well, there's Sean Dannell, only 13. This case, the level of brutality is just different. He's forced to undress, stabbed in the chest, the throat.
And then, even after death, Dunkle stabs him in each eye.
Yeah, it's like something out of a horror movie.
And this is where we start to see what's called signature behavior. Going beyond what's necessary to kill, there's a ritualistic element to it.
And what does that tell us about Dunkle? What's the significance?
Well, the postmortem mutilation, it suggests a deep rage, maybe even sadism. This wasn't just about ending a life. There was something more there, something dark.
It's scary to think someone like that was just out there. But how did they finally catch him? What led to his arrest?
Well, it's kind of strange, actually. He was arrested for burglary, 1985.
Burglary. After all that, a burglar.
Yeah, I know, right? Seems like a step down, almost.
Yeah.
But turned out to be a huge break in the case.
Really? How so?
So remember Steve Murphy, the hit-and-run victim from before? Well, while Dunkle's in custody for this burglary, they put an undercover officer in with him. And, get this, Dunkle admits to hitting Murphy.
Wow. Just confess like that.
Yeah, it's surprising. Maybe he thought it was a minor thing compared to, the murders.
Mhm.
Or who knows, maybe he just liked to brag.
It's hard to fathom that kind of mind. But okay, so they got him on the hit and run. How did they connect him to the murders, though?
Well, that took a while longer. Lots of police work, piecing together evidence, witness statements, forensics. It all slowly started pointing to Dunkle.
And that's what led to the charges for John Davies and Lance Turner.
Exactly. 1989, convicted on both counts, first-degree murder, the sentence, death.
So that's it, right? Case closed.
Well, not exactly. There's another twist. 1994, Dunkle pleads guilty to Sean Dannell's murder.
Wait, he fought the other charges but then pleaded guilty to this one? Why?
It's a good question. Some think it was a strategy to avoid another trial, all the media attention. Others, they think maybe it was a form of remorse finally setting in. Hard to know for sure.
But regardless, he's a convicted serial killer on death row. But then there's this whole other aspect to the case, Dunkle's mental state.
Right. After the convictions, he's diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Which, well, that brings up a whole other set of questions, right?
Absolutely. Like, what was his mental state during the crimes? Did it play a role? Schizophrenia is serious. It can manifest in so many ways.
And it sounds like his condition has gotten well, a lot worse in prison.
Yeah, he's considered gravely disabled. Reports say he bangs his head on the wall, has these paranoid delusions, thinks he's being controlled by computer chips, stuff like that.
That's, wow. It's
Yeah.
hard to picture, the calculated killer we've been talking about, and then this image of him now, it's almost like two different people.
It is a stark contrast, and it raises some really tough questions about justice, about accountability.
Like, how do you punish someone who might not even be in control of their own actions?
Exactly. And in 2002, it gets even more complex. They appoint a legal guardian for Dunkle because of his condition.
So he's not even considered fit to manage his own affairs, but he's still on death row. It's a messy situation.
Yeah.
No easy answers.
It really is. And then, to make it even more complicated, Dunkle appeals his sentence all the way to the Supreme Court.
What? Seriously, what happened
Yeah.
with that? So the Supreme Court, what did they say? Did Dunkle get off death row?
Well, not exactly. In 2005, they actually upheld the death sentence.
Wow. So even with all this, the mental illness, the gravely disabled thing, still, death row, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it really brings up some fundamental questions about justice. Like, what is justice in a case like this,
Hmm.
where someone might not be fully, responsible for their actions?
Right, right. But then there's also the victims, the families. They deserve justice too, right? It's a tough balance.
Absolutely. And Dunkle's case, it really highlights that tension. On one hand, you have this man so ill he can't even care for himself, delusions, the whole 9 yards. And on the other, well, there's the death penalty still
Yeah.
hanging over him.
Yeah.
It makes you think about punishment, accountability, even just what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff. We started out just looking at the facts, and now we're in deep philosophical territory.
That's what makes these cases so compelling, I think. So disturbing, yeah. But also important to talk about.
Totally. Dunkle's story, it's not just about one man, one crime spree. It reflects these larger issues, these dilemmas our society is grappling with. Compassion versus accountability, the role of mental illness.
Exactly. And we can't just shy away from those tough questions.
No, we can't. So, to everyone listening out there, I want you to think about this case, about Jon Dunkle. What does it tell us about our justice system, about how we deal with mental illness? When someone is that ill, is the death penalty still justified? How do we balance, the need for justice with understanding the human mind, especially when it's, well, broken? Those are the questions we need to keep asking ourselves. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning.